I would like to welcome everybody. Uh, as we go on, if you have questions uh, on your panel, you'll see a little Q&A button. If you just tap on that, you'll be able to type in your questions. And my wife Judy is standing by, watching them. And later on in the presentation, uh, she'll be reading them out loud, and uh, you will be able to get them answered. Um, to start off with, I've got a little video that I'd like to show you that tells a little bit about the Exodus 1947, just to give you a little bit of background before we get into our discussion. I would like to introduce our guests, Yehudit Sher Weisberg and Ari Weisberg. Yehudit was the writer of the trial of Uncle Charlie, and Ari was the director producer. So I suspect they worked fairly close together on the project. Um, the play opened originally in Jerusalem in January of this year to what I understand was a sellout audience. And now, without any further ado, let me introduce Yehudit and Ari, and I've got a few questions. First of all, Yehudit, how did you end up in Israel?
We actually wanted to come to Israel many years ago. Here we are. We made Aliyah 2.5 years ago.
What inspired you to write the Trial of Uncle Charlie?
A number of years ago, quite a few years ago, a friend of mine loaned me her high school history book. It was a book written in Hebrew that that at that time they used in her high school. And it was about the years before the state was established. And on one page, it described what happened on the Exodus. And I was shocked because I read Leon Uris's book, I saw the movie with Paul Newman, and I assumed that that was the truth. And I was shocked. But at that time, I had no intention of writing a play. But over the years, gradually, the characters emerged, and they basically helped write the play.
Respond.
Okay, I was trying to solve a problem Judy's having with the questions there. So you actually didn't have any personal connection to anyone on the Exodus? No. Okay. For most people here, obviously haven't read the script. No one has except me. How about a brief synopsis of the story?
Okay, so it won't be a spoiler, but the story opens with a young couple who are on their honeymoon. He is Israeli, she's a British Jew who moved to Israel to be with him. And she notices that he's very uncomfortable in England. And we find out that his father, although the youngster, Galaad, doesn't really understand why, that his father always hated anything to do with the British, hated anything to do with the English language. And all the son, Galaad, knew was that his father's friend, who was a Holocaust survivor, was murdered on board the Exodus. And then things happen. It turns out that the father, whose memories have haunted him for many, many years and ruined his marriage and his relationship with his son, is really trying to get over it. The play opens 20 years after the incident, but something happens that brings this to the fore. And that is one of the things that the play deals with, the major conflict. How is he going to react? How is the father, Yehuda, going to react now that his relationship with his son is improving? How is he going to react when he's confronted head on with the character?
And on top of that conflict, there's conflicts, of course, within the young couple and within the father and the son. And it's kind of spirals into, you got to see the play.
Okay. And hopefully you'll be able to see the play here in Worcester in October, so long as we're done with the virus business. That'll allow us to get back into doing things somewhat normally. How historically accurate is the play?
It is totally historically accurate, except for one thing. The man you saw in the video whose head was bashed in by the British, he was one of the American volunteers, Bill Bernstein, Zichrono Livracha. And there were 2 young boys who were shot on the Exodus. In the play, I changed the identity of the man whose head was bashed in from Bill Bernstein, an American, to an older Holocaust survivor. But other than that, the play is totally accurate. And as a matter of fact, we had discussions every night after the performance. It was easy because we're in Jerusalem. But after one of the performances, a woman came on stage who actually, as a 9-year-old, was on the Exodus. And she was asked by a member of the audience, how accurate is the play? And she said it was totally accurate. Of course, I couldn't go into all the details, but all the details that I did mention are historically accurate.
So, okay, well, we know what artistic license you did take with it. You know, the question I kind of have with the main character, Yehuda, who was the man who witnessed the murder, as the protagonist of the play, and the question is, why for 20 years was he reluctant to talk about it?
I think what happened was he was pretty traumatized. In the play near the beginning, it comes out that the son, the parents were divorced by then, the son's grade 4 teacher asked the children to research the background to their name. And so this Galed phoned his father and asked him, you know, why I was named Galed. And the father started to explain to him that that was the name of his friend who was murdered on board the Exodus. But just then, the mother called that it was time to go to soccer. And he said, okay, I've got to go, Dad, bye. And his father then never spoke about it again. He was so deeply hurt. And you'll find that many, many people who witnessed things, you have this with Holocaust survivors, you have this with people who saved other people. They don't, once something happens to suppress, they are talking about it, they just don't talk about it at all.
I mean, obviously, there are a lot of messages in the play, but what was the primary message you were trying to convey?
Okay, so first of all, I want to share that in the creative process, a lot of times the characters write their own lines. And actually something very funny happened that paints a picture of this process. I really connected with Yehuda. I really, really like him. And he became almost alive to me. And one day, this is a little funny, I met a single woman. And the thought came to me, oh, I thank God I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, I know who it might be perfect for her. And it was only later that evening that I realized that this ideal person was actually Yehuda, a character in my play. But the message that comes out in the end is that we need to tell our own story. We cannot rely on others. And there's a lot of Jewish history that has gone missing, has been suppressed. One of the things that I did a lot of in Toronto was Israel advocacy. And also I have a webinar that people can look up, Israel and Palestine, a look at the words that turned history upside down, to try and share the history that has been suppressed.
Good. Oh. Let's see here. Ari, how collaborative a process was this?
Yeah, I have to admit that I've directed more than 30 plays in Toronto over the years. And the closest I got to work with a playwright is if I had some questions and or usually minor changes I wanted to make, I would talk to the playwrights about these. But I never had the opportunity of have a playwright right there. And I remember once in one of the One of the meetings that we have of Jewish Theaters Association, a director said that, look at it. It may turn out to be a difficult experience. And doing it with your wife may even be more fine. But no, we really worked together well. And I have to admit that at the beginning, what we did with some reading, and then there was some, the actors thought their thoughts and suggested some changes. And then he went through some more thoughts about it. Then during the rehearsal process, again, it was never done before. People suggested maybe you could do that, maybe you would change that. We had one particular actor, the one who played Yehuda, who was very, instrumental in shaping these changes. And at the beginning, you did, like most creative people, wasn't very receptive, but eventually she has accepted pretty well everything, and she became more into it. But during the extra rehearsals, she sat on our rehearsal a number of times, and she was instrumental, by the way, to get me to be on stage first time in I don't know how many years. The story is that character of an older Galeed, which has 3 lines in the play.
Well, a little more than that.
The way it was originally written is that the young Galeed just puts a hat on and moves to the side, and he's become the old one. But our 20-something guy just
couldn't do it.
Couldn't do very well. So I went there, and as I sometimes do, try not to, and I demonstrated to him what I meant that I want him to do. And then you did, and then the other actor said, "You should do it." And I said, no, I don't go on stage anymore. Eventually, I ended up on stage for those 4.
Perfect. Yeah. I also want to say that Ari was very instrumental in just sharing with me the whole notion of conflict. And sometimes he said, this scene, there's not enough conflict. And as he said, at first it was hard for me when you think that your creation is finished. But then I really saw that he was absolutely correct.
Yeah, I want to explain, when you say conflict, it's not like Who's Afraid from Virginia Woolf. You have to have the characters, have to have something what I call to strive for, to fight for. Does that mean a fight? But they have to have a goal. They have to have a objective in each scene, and the objective should have some kind of a stumbling block, and had to be negotiated around. That's what makes a play interesting.
Ari,
In directing, the main goal of mine, I tell us the actors over and over, take the strongest option always, because all we want is to make this play as interesting as possible.
Ari, what were your major challenges in the play?
Getting English speakers actors in Jerusalem. I should say that actually there's quite a English-speaking scene here. I think there are about 16 groups who do plays in English. And when we booked the theater, we thought that January would be kind of a slow time, because that's the way it was in Toronto, and will be easy to get actors. But what happened is that a lot of the groups started rehearsals right after the high holidays, which took them to January. So we had to hold more and more auditions, and eventually we used some Israeli English-speaking actors, and we had to, besides an acting, we had to work with them on dictation, but it all pronunciation, but it all came to life, and it was a great show.
Is there much English theater in Jerusalem, or are you a pioneer?
Yeah, sorry. There are, as I said, about 16 groups here. A lot of them do musicals. They love musicals, and people like to take part in musicals. Not too much in serious straight plays. There's another group that started about 2 years ago. It's called Theater and Theology, and it really ties in Jewish life with theology, with Jewish theology.
Would you like to come to Worcester to direct when we do it here?
Get rid of the coronavirus.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. And Yehudit, you have any other plays in the works?
It will take a while. I've just started today looking at starting to do research on a possible subject, but I'm not even going to mention it right now.
Oh, okay.
If I ever write it, Hal, I will send it to you first.
Okay. Okay. Judy, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. The first question from Herb: in doing your research, did you watch the movie glamorized version with Paul Newman and Sal Mineo, and how much did it influence your writing?
Okay, thank you. I watched that movie many, many, many years ago. And then when I decided, or when this whole play idea started taking on some flesh, I decided to watch it again. And as I say, one of the things that I really wanted to get across was that play is so inaccurate. And I have to say that I have a lot of anger towards the British. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the British legal obligations that they had during the Mandate. And if you look at the Mandate for Palestine, which by the way still has is still legally binding, Article 6 states that Britain was under the legal obligation to help encourage Jewish immigration to the land of Israel. And if the British would have kept the law, Jews would have had a place to escape and could have escaped from the Nazis. And people have never held the British to account. Yes, they took in a lot of children in the Kindertransport, but as Galad states in the play, and what happened to their parents? So yes, other countries, the United States and Canada, also didn't let Jews in, but Britain was under the legal obligation to help, not only to bring Jews in, but to help them get there. And instead they had gunboats out and stopped Jews from coming. So that it really, really got me even angrier to watch the Hollywood version.
Speaking of that, there is a documentary called Exodus 1947. It's available on Amazon Prime, that does tell the true story of the Exodus, and for that matter, the whole Haganah movement of trying to send Holocaust refugees by ship and to break the British blockade. Very worthwhile watching. I watched it for the second time last night with Judy, and her comment was at the end, I didn't know that. Right. So definitely worthwhile watching. Anything else, question-wise?
Well, we have a comment from Goldie. I sent the notice to a number of people, all of whom said they know the story of the Exodus, which of course was based on the movie. I hope many people will watch this webinar and more will have the pleasure of seeing the play in October here in Toronto.
Uh,
Yeah, get your travel plans good. I'll
I-
come direct and you come travel.
Okay, yeah. Not only haven't I cast the play yet here for Worcester, so I don't know if they want to travel to Toronto.
Toronto can come here.
Yeah, that's true too. The other way around. Anything else?
No more questions yet. Come on, everybody. We need some good questions.
Okay.
Where do you buy tickets?
Where do we buy tickets? They'll be available online. Ari, were there any particular considerations or problems you had in staging the play?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I've done a lot of directed as well as set designs of plays in Toronto, and we were over the years got into a system, and you knew where it was and what it is. It was a warehouse where you got set pieces and flats and all these things, and we had our people and who does that and who'll do that and do that. When I came to Jerusalem, when we came to Israel, I said, I'm going to start new life. I'm not going to start directing plays again. I want to do other things. I'm retired now. Somebody else took over the theater, and I started learning and hiking and traveling and doing all these lovely things. So then Yudit came up with a play, and she said, well, if the play's any good, would you direct it? So we made it good, and I directed it, and we booked the Prime Repertory Theater. They have a smaller venue. That's the Han Theater, if anybody's familiar with that, in Jerusalem. And then the thing started that I have to look and create everything from start. You know, it was us two, and that was it. So, but there's a good network here in Jerusalem between the English people, theater people, and we managed to find stage manager and lighting person and makeup. You mentioned the makeup artist job. I don't know if you can, if you want to flip that picture on, but there's a requirement for one of the actors, one of the characters, Charlie actually, to have quite a gruesome scar on his face. And we've had this amazing makeup artist who came every night from Bet Shemesh, which is quite a hike, and came about an hour and a half before each show, and did that makeup, as well as so makeup, then costuming, and so forth and so on. And the final challenge was that we ran for 2 weeks, but we couldn't get straight 2 weeks, so we had to take everything out every Saturday night after the show, and then reset everything on Tuesday for the rest of the show. And in Toronto, I knew where to rent a truck. I knew, I had a van. I could do, and all these little things have, finally I got some movers, and they moved us back and forth for the show. So,
And also rehearsal space.
oh, and rehearsal space. Yeah, that's another story. So eventually we ended up in a Miklat basement.
A bomb shelter.
Yeah, bomb shelter. under the shul that we're going to. And it needed a lot of cleaning up. I worked there for 2 days, cleaning it up and getting it ready. And yeah, and other challenges as well.
I think we have some more questions.
Yeah, we've got a question first from Paula, who wants to know, Yehuda, if you write in any other genres, for instance, articles or books.
So I've actually written some children's stories. Unfortunately, they're not published. I never took the time to really follow through, but I'm a ventriloquist storyteller. So I have performed many of my stories, children's stories. So those are basically the areas that I've written. Also, I made this few webinars on Israel. So that involved, of course, research and writing.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful. I could think of
Oh, we can't hear.
You froze.
Yeah.
a whole lot
Okay.
of
Yep.
people here who have
Can't hear.
grandchildren who would love to bring them to.
Anyway, she's-
Okay.
Okay.
Now you're
Now try. You were frozen. Try again.
I was frozen.
Is it that cold there?
No, it's nice out today. No, what I was saying, Yehuda, is we have a lot of friends who have young grandchildren who I'm sure would love to bring them to hear your children's stories.
Okay. Yeah, but,
Well, I can send you some of them.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And we have a whole bunch more questions from Ronit. Are you doing anything proactive to get the play produced elsewhere in North America?
Okay, so I did send it out to other theaters, but I think because of this whole virus situation, probably theaters are dealing with what to do the upcoming year. So I think it's going to take a long time. There was one theater that wanted me to mail in the script, and that's just impossible right now.
Anything else?
Yep, Carol says, thank you for sharing history that has been suppressed. I look forward to auditioning and/or seeing your play in October. Thank you, Carol.
Oh, terrific.
Okay.
And Goldie wants to know if there's a record available of the play.
No, unfortunately.
Well,
And a question from Patty. She detects an accent in Ari's speech. She wants to know, is he a native Canadian? And could you tell a little bit more about yourselves?
Okay. The truth always comes out. I was actually born and raised and grew up in Israel. I'm an Israeli. What they say now, I moved, but when I did, they call it, I made an yerida, which is the opposite of aliyah, to Canada, and I stayed there way too long, and thank God we're back. This is third generation Canadian.
Okay, now we've got a question from Patty for Hal.
Patty wants to know how you heard about this play.
Patty wants to know how you heard about this play.
excuse me. Strictly by accident. I was just doing some web surfing, and I came across a notice, an audition notice, I think it was originally, for the Jerusalem production. Now, obviously, I wasn't going to audition, but that got me doing a little more searching, and I found some more postings, and it just sounded very interesting. The only contact information I had wasn't even a name, was just an email address at the theater, which turned out to be Ari. And I asked him if he could put me in touch with the author. Little did I know, all he had to do was talk across the room. And it just, as they say, the rest is history. We spoke. Yehudit sent me a copy of the script, and once I read it, I said, gee, this is, I'm starting this theater company. I now really have 2 dynamite plays for the first season.
If we
And
ever get out of quarantine.
if we ever get out of quarantine and there is a first season. Originally, frankly, I was going to do another play called Survivors by Wendy Kaut as the first play. But as I see things have been dragging on since that play deals with Holocaust survivors, I'm now swinging that basically almost a year from now to more or less coincide with Yom HaShoah next year, and decided to do the trial of Uncle Charlie, which is now fairly close to the date of the Exodus, which actually was in July. And anyone else? I'm running out of words. So.
Well, we've got a question from Ronit. Are you thinking of translating the play into Hebrew?
Good question. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Your questions are wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a question from Barbara wanting to know about the Worcester Connection and honoring and celebrating in July, hopefully.
Okay, actually, I'll take that one. In July, the Central Massachusetts Jewish Federation is planning a commemoration of the Exodus 1947 with special attention to the Worcester connection of Reverend Grau, who was born in Worcester, and Judge Bernstein, who was involved in the financing of the
Judge Goldberg.
Goldberg, I'm sorry, I have my notes wrong. Who is involved in the financing of the Exodus 1947. So for the Worcester people, you can look forward to seeing upcoming information on that very, very shortly. Okay. If there are no more questions,
we have a comment from Steve Schimmel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we have a comment from Stephen and Alyssa Schimmel. Stephen is the head of Jewish Federation of Central Massachusetts. He says, we are excited for the future of Jewish theater in Central Mass. Also, a reminder to all that on July 12th, we plan a commemorative event for the Exodus in Worcester at Elm Park. So that will answer lots more of Barbara's questions about the Worcester connection. And also a totally unrelated but very timely question. Charles wants to know if you in Israel are social distancing and mostly at home.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, they're starting to relax some of the restrictions, but they're still asking people to keep the social distancing. They are opening up some of the schools for the younger grades and the older grades. But there's a bit of chaos. A lot of stores have opened. Maybe the malls will open next week, but we are still staying pretty put. at home.
Okay. As are we.
Yes.
So,
My
okay.
big concern is my dad is 102 years old in Toronto, and I can't go visit him now. It's to go on a plane right now is too risky, and then go see him. But things are opening up here.
Well, the next time you're in the States, you have a standing invitation in Worcester.
For you here in Jerusalem, this sofa that you see in the background is a pull-out bed.
Okay. Yeah. And we have a guest apartment virtually, so here we go. Okay.
Thank everybody.
Yeah, Judy was here to do the questions. Now she's becoming the director. I'm getting this business. I really,
You have more questions?
I really want to thank you very,
Everybody-
very much.
And thank you for having us on. And
You're-
thank you for taking on the play. It's very exciting.
Thank you. to
Thank you.
everybody.
You're quite welcome. And I want to thank everybody who has taken the time out of their day to join us. It's actually a very unique day here in Worcester. It's one of the few warm, sunny days we've had recently. So I was afraid people would be outside. But again, thank you all very much. And to end it off, I have another short little video piece, courtesy of Ari, who sent it to me a few days ago, that I think is worthwhile taking a look at. And don't forget to go and watch Exodus 1947 on Amazon Prime. It's an important experience.
And
So,
stay well.
and yes, and everybody stay well. All right. Okay. Bear with me a minute, and let's see if we can get this video up.
If you're going to show the video, just one comment, you will see in that clip them bringing down 2 coffins of the 2 young Holocaust survivors that the British shot on board the ship.
can the director. And any suggestions you have would be greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you so much.
And a good night from Jerusalem.